What I've got here is the Sony Xperia 5 Mark III. I've been using it for about a year, and I'd like to tell you a few things that some YouTube reviewers missed, and some things that they got wrong. Let's get into it.
Obviously, I'm a camera nerd, so I like the fact that Sony gives you so much control over their cameras. There's 4 lenses in this camera, 5 different focal lengths, as well as shutter speed control and ISO control. So their app is very intuitive for a person that's been using Sony cameras since I was 13 years old. But I can understand that people that are not familiar with Sony menu systems may be a little intimidated by their professional camera app. That's okay, because you can put it in basic mode and use it like an iPhone. And that's what I'm using right now. The 16mm ultra wide lens, just in auto mode, and it looks good in my opinion. Obviously, if I flip this phone around and use the 8 megapixel sensor that has a 28mm lens, it's not going to look quite as good. It's not going to be quite as wide. I still think the selfie camera is actually quite good on this. Then let's say I want to film my dog. Yeah, I'm using the 105mm lens now, and I can switch that over to the 70mm lens. We're in direct sunlight. It's 98 degrees right now. We're filming 24 frames a second. I don't think it's too hitchy. Maybe the screen is a little hitchy. Switch over to the 24mm lens. You got your wide shot. It looks good. These are 12 megapixel sensors. It just looks very detailed in 4K. So after filming those couple clips, I just got a notification from the Xperia that it needs to cool down for a bit. It is 98 degrees out here, so that makes sense. I was filming in 4K, 24 frames a second. That's understandable, so we're gonna go back inside and let it cool down. And I wanna cool down too. Give that a minute. Alright, so now that that's cooled down a bit, let's see if we can get some examples of some low light footage. Right now we're using the wide, ultra wide lens, and we're on auto, and it's pitch black in here now. And I'm curious how it looks. What do you think? I mean, we're talking pitch black in here. We have blackout curtains. We have the thick blinds behind those blackout curtains. So is it usable footage? Probably not, but I mean, it's a phone. Looking at that clip that I just filmed, it was actually quite usable considering how dark it is in here. Let me just flip on these lights and see if we can't get a better image. We're on the 24 megapixel sensor. This is the main sensor. This is supposed to be the best one in the camera. All 3 of the back lenses have the same 12 megapixel sensor. They're just slightly bigger versions or smaller versions of the same sensor. What do you think? Is this usable footage out of a cell phone? My point is that this phone puts out some really excellent footage. I'm really impressed with it. It shoots in MP4 files. Those are H.264 or H.265 depending on what you choose in the settings. I chose H.265 because of file size, and that way I can transfer files to my NAS faster. What's really nice about this is the fact that I can use this footage interchangeably with my A7 camera. It really doesn't look all that different. I mean, it's 4K. It's got the Sony color science. I use this as a fast way to grab B-roll while I'm editing. Oh, I need a shot. I need this specific shot. Let me just pull out my phone, shoot the shot. The phone will send that video to the NAS. The NAS is connected to my editing computer. I open up DaVinci Resolve and I pull in that video file from the NAS. I'm editing right away. It's very quick workflow, and I love that about this setup that I have now. And just for sanity's sake, let's try some low light situations with the selfie camera. Now remember, this is a much smaller lens and a much smaller sensor. So this is only 8 megapixels. We're not going to be getting the same low light performance on this selfie camera, because the bezels on the screen are so small, they couldn't fit a high quality camera in such a small bezel. Nah, not really usable footage. I'm just looking at the screen right now, and it's not great. I mean, I could sit in front of my computer screens for a little bit of light, but yeah, it's okay, but it's very soft. This has all been in auto mode, but the manual mode is what really makes this phone take off. You can dial in your exposure, you can dial in your frame rate, you can dial in everything that you would need. You can even control focus manually, which is actually a pain in the butt. You can even dial in your camera shape correction, which obviously I'm hand holding this as a way of showing you what the auto shape correction looks like. It's usable, it's warbly. I don't have to use this $6,000 camera. I could use this $700 phone and not be in credit card debt. And obviously I'm a video nerd, but I also like taking photos. And this camera takes awesome photos. I mean, it takes raw photos in a cell phone camera, which I guess iPhones are doing that now, but like, that's so cool. And being able to edit those photos in Google Photos just like that, like not having to worry about that stuff, or I can use Photoshop or Lightroom or whatever, the mobile apps, right on the phone, and being able to get so much dynamic range and so much saturation and color. Just, I love editing photos. Obviously, I don't do it professionally, which is why I still love it. Let's be real, like it's fun for me as a nerd. Something that you have been testing yourself is the microphones. There's 2 microphones, so you can get stereo miking out of this. Most of the time when I create a talking head video, I just delete one of the tracks. I don't like stereo talking head, but obviously you've been listening to it and you can judge how good the microphones sound. I haven't treated my space yet, so it's pretty echoey in here. And the microphone is obviously arm's length away from my face. How good does it sound? If I'm just recording audio, I've downloaded the Rode Reporter app, which is really great for recording audio, especially if you want to record an external microphone that you plug into the headphone jack, which this phone has a headphone jack. Now, admittingly, I've never used a headphone jack. I was a production sound guy, DJ, at my previous job, so I used the headphone jack a lot, so I missed it a lot on the iPhone. And then when I switched my job, now I don't use the headphone jack anymore. I got so used to Bluetooth headphones, turns out there was enough space in the phone for a headphone jack. Apple was wrong. Stop being petty, Will. Speakers on this device. Oh my god. Some people think it's weird, but I like ASMR. I don't like the licking and the weird stuff, but I do like listening to nature sounds recorded in stereo, and the stereo built into the phone. Oh my god. It sounds so good. Listening to music through the phone speakers is just so good. What phone sounds good over their speakers? Obviously, there's no bass, but it does have the option to vibrate the screen, which gives you a 6-inch subwoofer. It kind of tickles a little bit. If you're holding your phone, you set your phone down or mount it on a tripod, it buzzes like it vibrates, so that's kind of weird. You do get a little more bass from vibrating the phone screen, so that's something. I turned it off. I don't need bass that bad. It was weird, admittingly, but it was a cool feature. It felt weird to hold the phone, and it's just like. But you have Bluetooth 5.2. I think Bluetooth sounds like garbage, but I don't have nice Bluetooth headphones. I've heard nice Bluetooth headphones, and I still don't think it sounds as good as plugging in a nice pair of headphones into the headphone jack. But I lost my nice pair of headphones during the move, so I don't have any headphones. I have earbuds that I use to listen to podcasts. It's fine. It's Bluetooth. Low latency, so that's good.
So I just got a notification that it overheated again. Gotta stop filming with it until it cools down, so that stinks. As far as the Bluetooth goes, I did notice a significant improvement over the iPhone's Bluetooth. It did sound better. I can admit that. I still think Bluetooth sounds like garbage. I'm an audio guy. I'm very sensitive to that. I'm not an audiophile. I'm not that much of a jerk. But I do notice the difference between the iPhone's Bluetooth versus the Sony's Bluetooth. It is significantly better. Let's talk about the screen. Very small bezels, way smaller than the iPhone's. They fit so much in these bezels. You know, they fit the speakers and the camera and the ambient light sensors. They fit so much screen into this phone. It's a 21:9 display, and it is fun to watch movies on a phone that is the correct aspect ratio. There's no black bars. It's kind of thrilling, and I like watching YouTubers like Anamorphic on a Budget because he makes anamorphic YouTube videos, so I can watch them in full screen. And I've noticed myself getting excited about the more cinematic YouTubers because I know they have an aspect ratio that matches this phone. It's geeky, it's not for everybody, but I really like this screen, and it's 120 hertz, which is freaking smooth. I don't have it on all the time because I just don't need 120 hertz, but you know, gaming and watching, it's pretty smooth, and I like it. I like it a lot. As far as handling the phone, I will say that it's top heavy. If I put my pinky under the phone like this, it doesn't quite fall out of my hands, and I have big hands. But I like the fact that I can reach across the whole screen. With the Pixel 7, I can't reach across the screen. I'm holding it with two hands. I don't like huge phones. And this is a big screened, huge phone. I can handle it. Like, I can reach across the screen. I can type with one hand. Now, I have long fingers. I have big hands. So take that into consideration. There is an option to quickly switch your keyboard to one-handed mode, and you can even switch the entire screen to one-handed mode, and it'll shrink down the screen to the corner close to where your thumb is. So if you have smaller hands, that may be good for you. I can't reach the top of the screen, especially the far corner, with my pinky down here under the phone, so I do find myself holding my phone like this a lot more so that I'm more in the middle, but it limits my thumb movement a lot when I have to hold the phone so it doesn't slip out of my hand instead of prop it up with my pinky and hold more loosely and have more motion for my thumb. So handling it is a bit awkward. Holding it horizontally, oh my god, it just fits perfectly. I'm sorry, I'm being weird. Let's talk about YouTubers saying that this phone overheats. Using the phone normally does not overheat nearly as much as the iPhone overheated. I had to keep my iPhone in my lunchbox with ice in order to listen to podcasts. Whereas this phone, I don't have overheating problems like what YouTubers are talking about. Now, obviously, I've overheated twice already in this video, so using intensive tasks like the camera app will overheat the phone, and I have noticed that when the phone is in my pocket, it will open the camera app. It will get very warm. It'll drain the battery. I was able to mitigate that by changing the setting, what was it called? Double tap to wake. It doesn't wake up the screen when I tap it anymore, which is whatever. It's got tons of buttons on the side to do that, and it opens really quickly. So I don't care about double tap to wake, and I don't have a problem with the camera app opening in my pocket anymore and draining my battery and overheating the phone. So I don't have problems with overheating. I do have problems with my podcast app crashing, and Audible crashes all the freaking time. I had a lot of crashes with Audible on my iPhone as well, so maybe it's just an Audible thing. As far as overheating, it's way better than an iPhone. I can be out there on a 90-degree day, not have a single overheating problem. Now, I have noticed the phone thermal throttles, but that's different than shutting down and crashing your apps completely. On a 90-degree day, that's pretty good. Now, when it gets up to 100 degrees, I don't experience much crashing, but I can't play video games. I can't film on it. So there's that aspect. I don't know if other Androids are better. Maybe a bigger screen will allow more heat to dissipate because of a larger surface area, and because this screen is slightly thinner, it doesn't have as much surface area to dissipate heat. I'm not sure. Alright, let's try this again. I only have that problem in extreme heat situations. Situations where your body shouldn't even be outside, let alone your electronic device. It's understandable, is what I'm trying to say. Let's talk about the battery life. Excellent. It's a 4,500 milliamp hour battery, which is almost 3 times as much as the iPhone. I don't worry about my battery. Android allows you to customize when your battery gets to 100%. That's to protect the battery life over the extended period of the device over years, which I think is amazing. So I customized, what time of day that I pull my phone off the charger. Typically, I start my day around 90% charge, so that my phone never gets up to that 100%. But on the weekends when I sleep in, my phone charges to 100%. I'm using my phone more on the weekends when I'm not working. It makes sense to have a little more life. The fact that I can customize my charging that way and protect my battery life, I really like that. That's freaking amazing. Obviously that's an Android thing, not specifically Sony, but I turned 5G off because we don't have those towers in my area, so there's no point in draining the battery looking for a 5G tower when it's not there. The only other times I had battery life problems were when the camera app would open in my pocket when I was sweating or when it was raining outside and I was really wet. The camera app would open and be on for hours. Other than that, I don't have battery life problems. I just don't worry about the battery life ever. I don't even look at the percentage anymore. I was so focused on battery life when I had an iPhone for the past decade, and I'm free now. I don't even worry about it. I just grab my phone, I go about my day, get in bed, I plug it in, and I go to sleep. I don't think about my battery life anymore. It's amazing how much stress iPhones caused me over the past decade, and I don't even have to think about that stress ever again because of this phone. Sony is amazing. Talk about the water resistance, because I talked to you about raining and sweating. Obviously the double tap to wake was a way to fix that issue. I have not had any water problems, but what I really do like about the Android software is the fact that it will warn you if there's water in the USB port, so I know I can, blow it like a Nintendo cartridge, and try and get that water out of there without spitting into the USB-C port. I did get water damage on this phone, and I had a warranty claim with Sony that they refused to honor, and I can tell you the whole story, but that would have to be another video, so let me know in the comments if you want to hear about why Sony didn't honor the warranty on an IP65 rated phone that had water damage. It wasn't a lot of water, it was a splash of water. I've got the transcripts from the conversation with Sony as to why they wouldn't honor the warranty. It wasn't that big a deal. It was a cheap part that I was able to buy. I took it to a local repair shop. They didn't charge me very much to fix it. I probably could have fixed it myself if I felt adventurous enough. I could have made a YouTube video about it. Anyway, let me know if you want to see that transcript and that whole story as to why Sony didn't honor the warranty on this phone. It's within 9 months of purchasing it, so it is definitely within the warranty period. Very frustrating how Sony was very unhelpful. Yeah, it's USB-C charging port. It charges fast. It's not lightning, which is a huge improvement. It's also fast data transfer, which I don't need because the Wi-Fi is so fast. I can choose to transfer data over the USB Type-C at 500 megabytes per second. Transfer over Wi-Fi, I have a choice instead of iPhone, which is like, AirDrop. Hope you have a MacBook. It's like... Sorry, I'm not trying to make this a brag on Apple video, but it's just, I've spent a decade with Apple, and it's just been
a nightmare. About the USB-C port and transferring data, I can also use an SD card that it has an SD card slot that is toolless. I can just pop it out and I can take that SD card and I can transfer those video files or photo files onto my computer. It's like 80 megabytes per second, not megabits per second, but like nearly a gigabit per second faster than the USB-C port. Honestly, I don't need to go faster than the USB-C port or the Wi-Fi because they're fast enough as it is. I can't get on my computer and load up DaVinci Resolve faster than the video footage is already there. It's so easy, so reliable. What's not reliable is Verizon's coverage. It's so terrible in my area that I can hardly ever make a phone call. Now, I don't know if that's the antenna in the Xperia, and I'm hoping that Linus Tech Tips in their labs will measure the Sony Xperia to see if it's like a worse antenna or if it's just Verizon. Now, I've talked to several people in my area that have Verizon, and they say it's also terrible. It's probably just Verizon. It's probably not the phone. I thought about sticking a second SIM card from maybe AT&T or T-Mobile to have a little backup network. Unfortunately, that's like $60 a month, so I can't afford that. I'm already paying $60 a month for Verizon, so maybe like a Mint Mobile or something. $15 a month, pop in a backup network and be able to make phone calls. But I have that option because I can put two SIM cards in here. Now I lose my SD card slot because the second SIM card would go in the SD card slot. It's a give and take. Editing video on this is super fast, no problems, no hitches, no glitches with the Snapdragon 888 chip in here. Very happy with it. Gaming is great as long as you aren't in direct sunlight.
And the irony, as I'm talking about it overheating, it tells me that I can no longer film because it's overheated. Maybe there is something to that overheating problem. It's warm and it's kind of cool in my office, so maybe they're right. I never have overheating problems, but it's overheated 3 times in the last 30 minutes while I'm filming this. It was definitely hot outside, but it's cool in here. Shouldn't be having these overheating problems. I really love this phone. It fits into my lifestyle. It's a really different experience from having an iPhone over the past decade when Apple is trying to force me to fit my lifestyle into their phone, iOS. But Sony is trying to design their phones to solve the end user's problems and fit their product into their end user's lifestyle. Apple's like trying to date someone who is trying to change your lifestyle, whereas Sony is like finding that person that has a compatible personality. I realize that Xperia is not the right phone for everyone. Madi wouldn't like this phone at all. But this is the perfect phone for me. And I will likely upgrade to a Xperia phone in a few years when I need a new phone. But let me know what Android phone fits into your lifestyle in the comments. Madi loves her Pixel 7.